Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Next up for 7 minutes, Mr. Angus.
Thank you very much. Mr. McKay, it's good to have you here, Mr. Basili. Mr. McKay, you talk about deep Canadian roots. You certainly have deep Canadian roots. In my region, you compete against all our local newspapers for online advertising. Would you consider deepening your roots by paying the HST so we have a level playing field?
I'll answer that in two stages. Number one, we provide ad technology services to newspapers, and we provide revenue.
Yeah, I don't care about that.
No,
Tell me
but I just
paying
want to
the tax.
differentiate because your study is predicated on one company's behavior, and I just want to differentiate that we provide services to newspapers that allows them to increase opportunities to gain revenue from their online viewers. Your second question about GST, yes. If the government takes the steps to make GST applicable to a company in our situation and other online businesses, then we will take the steps like we do in every other country to collect it from our users who purchase things from us.
Is the minister moving in that direction, Mr. Jolie?
I don't think it would be Minister Jolie, would it? It would be Minister Morneau, but that's up to the government to make that decision.
Right. Because this is a question that up till now there's been talk about, because you're not paying the HST, but then you also aren't being covered under Article 19 of the Tax Act, which if you're not paying HST as a Canadian company, then why should people get a tax deduction for giving advertising? And Google's called questions about paying tax on these issues of advertising punitive. So are you saying now it's not punitive, it would be fair?
Number one, we do pay tax on certain of our sales, like hardware and other elements of our sales in Canada.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So
that's not what I'm asking.
But all I'm simply saying to you is, if the government makes moves to implement legislation that requires us and other online companies to collect HST on behalf of the government, then we will take the steps to comply with that.
Okay. I noticed in the UK in 2014, Google's tax was less than $7,000, which is about the average that the UK worker pays, and yet you paid out $534 million in bonuses. So your level playing field around the world works pretty good for you. But I want to get into this question about Google's philosophy. I was a big Google believer. When you guys started out, I was like, this is really awesome. And I met Google in New York, and I love that philosophy, don't be evil. But your founder also said that Google's policy is to get right up to the creepy line and not cross it. I guess my question is can we trust you to decide what's okay creepy, what's not what's too creepy, and what's downright evil when you're facing a class action lawsuit for illegal data collection for using the loophole on the iPhone? You've been accused of tracking citizens in real time without their consent. You're facing charges in multiple states. And now there's a complaint about collecting personal information on children under 13, including location, device identifiers, phone numbers, and their use across different websites without their parental consent. So rather than trusting you to decide what's creepy, shouldn't we just have legislation?
That's why I had a list of tools that we've developed that are available to users in my opening remarks. Because you're right, there needs to be transparency around what we're collecting and clarity around why we're collecting it and what benefit it has to the user. And that is, over the years, we've learned from our mistakes. We've learned from incidents such as the ones you've cited.
They're not mistakes. I mean, these are class action lawsuits. These are charges, right? Like, it's sort of the question, if you guys get caught and then you learn lessons, this is the same thing we're having from Facebook. But if the public policy is to go right up to the creepy line, that doesn't give me much comfort.
The public policy is not to reach a space that is uncomfortable for our users. The policy we have in product development is to develop leading edge products that provide the greatest range of benefits for our users. And there's different rates of adoption and different levels of comfort with adoption.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Basili, I'm really interested in this discussion on surveillance capitalism. I was someone deeply against regulation of Google and that because I wanted to see them develop. Imagine that, me, a socialist, and here's your entrepreneur warning us about surveillance capitalism. We are living in an upside-down world. What concerns me is that we see Google in Canada. They have their former policy director in the Minister of Heritage's office. In the United States, Google's patent director is now in the patent office. And there's serious questions about the undermining of patent law in the United States by Google because of their enormous power. The Bank of Canada has warned about the power of companies like Google to undermine competitiveness. We see in the tech sector, patent lawyer Michael Shore has said that the U.S. is turning into a, quote, banana republic because legislators are rewriting the law to protect the interests of giants like Google, and the U.S. has dropped from first to 12th in global patent strength ratings over the last 4 years. For Canada's tech sector, given the very close, comfy, cozy relationship between Google and this present government, where do you see us taking our tech sector in terms of innovation and also building a credible relationship with Canadian consumers on issues of privacy?
Well, thank you for your question. My greatest concern is that I know that these partnerships were undertaken without an economic analysis domestically. So quite frankly, we don't know. I know as an entrepreneur that they've got deeply negative spillover effects to our innovation outputs. And if you see this year, Canada slid behind Poland in innovation performance. So we're 22nd in the world and Poland's 21. So, and once you're out of the top 20, you're not really considered a credible innovation nation. So, and I would tie our performance directly to the fact that we have not created sovereign innovation, positive spillover approaches. So to answer your question, I think we rush into these things, and I am directly aware that they are done with no economic analysis, involving no experts on their spillovers. And I can't imagine a business would ever do a partnership with ever a business case analysis. So I think the first thing we need to do is actually start analyzing the innovation effects of these varying partnerships or relationships, and use proper economics, not lobbynomics. The second thing is that competition law and privacy law, as I mentioned in Estonia, and as well the EU is doing some very active competition strategies, work very nicely to the benefits of innovation and the economy and citizenship. They can all work positively together if we approach them understanding their true nature.
Thank you.